Hey everybody! So with the end of the playoffs quickly approaching, we're about a month away from the end, and the NHL just announced today that the draft will take place on the 6th, and the free agency period will start on the 9th. So that just means that we're in the middle or at the beginning of the trading period. There's already been a trade. Montreal's picked up Jake Allen, goaltender, and teams that are not in the playoffs are allowed to trade. The teams that are in the playoffs currently, there's four, that they can't make trades right now. But it doesn't stop the other teams, as evidenced by Montreal picking up Jake Allen. So there's also been some talk, and I think it's by both these teams, Arizona and Pittsburgh, have kind of let it be known that it's a possibility that Kris Letang and Oliver Ekman-Larsson will be on the trading block. It's not official, but they're kind of letting it out. So I thought, we need a defenseman. Montreal's been looking for a defense, especially big time defensemen like that, to hopefully play with Shea Weber and shore up our defense. And I thought I'd take a look at both of these guys and decide whether I like the fact that we could, well, not like the fact, decide whether yes to pick them up or no to, don't go after them, and what it might take to get them. So we'll take a look at both these guys, and we're going to start with Kris Letang, and we'll get right into that. So Kris Letang is 33 years old. He is 6'1". No, is he 6'1"? No, he's 6 feet. Larson, I think, is 6'1", 200 pounds. He's a right shot defenseman. So now this creates the first problem with Letang is we're looking really for a guy on the left side that can play with Weber. Although Sherratt is good with Weber, but he's not your ultimate guy you'd like to have there with Weber. And so we're looking for that side. So a right side guy would mean to play along Weber, Petrie, and would you have Letang or Petrie or Weber playing third pairing defenseman? I don't think so. Now, I don't know. Kris Letang may be able to play the left side, and if that's a possibility, or he can do that, then you could say, okay, it's a possibility to go after him because that's the spot you'd want. If it's not the case, and you are picking him up, well, you got to figure, well, you're going to be moving Jeff Petrie, who has 1 year left on his contract, so he'll be a free agent at the end of next season. And Letang, who we'll get into, I guess, has, first of all, he's 13 seasons in the league. He's from Montreal, which is a plus, and he has 2 years left at 7.25 million on his contract. Now that's a big contract. 7.25 million. It's a lot of money for a guy that doesn't play every game. So let's check them out now. 2019-20, which is this past season, he played 61 games. 15, 29, 44. Those were his numbers. Good numbers, 44 points in 61 games. His career, 808 games, 127 goals, 410 assists for 537 points. Those are good, solid numbers for a defenseman. So definitely. Now, he is giving you averaging .66 goals per game. No, points per game, not goals. That would be great if he's giving you goals per game, but it's points per game. He's also giving you 9.61 goals per season, 31.38 assists per season, and that it turns out to 41 points per season. That's what his average is over his career. He had his career year in 25-16. 25-16. I don't know. Is that a year? 25-16. In 2015-16 was his career season on all three stats numbers. I didn't include games played because we'll get into that. 16 goals, 51 assists for 67 points. That's his career numbers for goals, assists, and points, all in the same season. Now here's the problem for me with Kris Letang is he's injury prone. He averages 61.5 games played per season. You're paying a guy 7.25 million. It's a lot of money to get 60 games average from that guy. I think that's a big problem because you're paying him a lot of money. He has had in 13 seasons one full season of 82 games. Now that doesn't include, I believe there was a strike shortened season that I think he might have played all the games, but that's 48 games, and he averages more than that, so that's not a surprise. But he's only played 82 games once. So this is something to consider if you're going to go out and trade for Kris Letang, is that you're getting a guy who is going to be playing basically 3/4 of the games at best, and maybe less, because he does get hurt. He's almost guaranteed to be missing some amount of games per season. Like I said, one year at 82 games, full season. So he gets hurt to some extent every season. He has a modified no-trade clause. I guess I'll move to this side. He has a modified no-trade clause, which allows him to give an 18-team no-trade list. So he can say, these 18 teams I don't want to be traded to. He can't be exposed to Seattle without his permission to be. So without his consent, because of the no-trade clause, if that's on the 18 teams, he can't be exposed. He's a right-shot defenseman. So I'm thinking here, you got to move Petrie, first of all, to afford Letang, because Letang at $7.25 million. It's going to be hard to bring him in, moving a guy with a much smaller salary, having Petrie, having Letang, having Weber. That's if Petrie re-signs with Montreal, you're looking at $20 million maybe plus for 3 defensemen. That's a lot of money. So, you might not be able to afford him, but you might have to move Petrie just to free up the spot for him, right? And to afford him. But you got to free up a spot for him, because I don't see him, if he's playing right side defenseman, I don't see him playing those Weber, Petrie, Letang. I don't see that being your 1, 2, 3. That's just, I can't see that. He would help the power play. He gets points on the power play, and he plays on the penalty kill units. He's a really good defenseman. There's no doubt. I'm not knocking him on that at all here in this. Here is something that's interesting, because I read a few articles about this. Now, last season, I think Malkin I'm not sure if Malkin was a free agent, but I'm assuming from the article that the team, to get Malkin refocused, they kind of used the threat of not re-signing him or not playing him in the right spot. I'm not sure what it was, but they used this kind of a threat against him, sort of, and it kind of refocused him. And Malkin did respond, because he had 74 points in 55 games. So that was a positive response to whatever the threat was. So they're kind of saying, he's not officially on the trading block, and more than likely won't be. And he thinks, by the way, that he's going to be traded. He said it to his teammates. He thinks he's going to be traded either this offseason or next season. So he thinks that. They want him to think that, because they want to refocus him, and kind of like the way they did with Malkin. Now, listen, he had a good season. I don't know what he needs to be refocused on. If he had 16 goals, 51 assists for 67 points, I think that's a pretty good season. No, that's not the right numbers. That's his career year. He had 15 goals, 29 assists for 44 points. Now, if I edited my videos, that would be not in the video that you just saw, but that I don't do that. So, yeah, so he had 44 points. Not bad. I don't see why he has to be refocused. I mean, that's in 61 games, 44 points. I don't know how much more they expect to get out of him, but, I mean, his career numbers are 41 points a season. He got 44. That's above that. But this is what they're talking about. I don't know if that comes into play here. Just thought I'd mention it. Now, it would take an exceptional offer to land Letang. I think without a doubt. Even if he's on the block and they're actively trying to trade him, I think you've got to come up with a really good offer to land him. And, I guess we'll get into that in a second. This is what I think it might take. But the Habs do have the cap space. Honestly, they do. He would only be guaranteed to be here for 2 seasons. He's only signed for the 2. So the Habs have the cap space definitely for next season. It's the season after where they got a whole bunch of contracts to sign. But by having Letang here, if that were the deal, and you move Petrie to get him, you wouldn't have Petrie's negotiation to re-sign Petrie, because he'd be off the books. So there'd be one guy less to sign. You already know what you're paying Letang. I mean, it's something to think about. I don't know. Letang at $7.25 million. Just, it's a lot of money. I don't know what Petrie's going to get. I would think Petrie's going to get somewhere around that when he resigns somewhere. He's making 5.5 now. I would have to think he's going to get close to 7, if not 7, something like that. So the Habs would have the cap space, literally, to have Letang. You'd only have him for 2 seasons. You don't have to worry about long term and having him. He's 33. You don't want to have him until he's 40. So, we already have one defenseman basically like that in Weber. We don't need to have another guy like that. So that's what I got to say on that. This is what I think it might take to get Letang, if that's what they're going to do. It's going to take you a lot. Now, I put here Petrie because I think that if you're going to get Kris Letang, you have to move Petrie. I don't see how you're going to have all three of them. I don't know that Letang can play left side defenseman. If he hasn't played it in his whole career, he's been with Pittsburgh his whole career. I doubt he's played left side too often anyway, so I don't think that's how you're going to look at it. So he has to be coming in to take the spot behind Weber. That means Petrie's got to move. You're going to be giving up a prospect, which is one of these guys here, I would think, and a pick, which could be a 5th, 6th, or 7th, or it could be a higher pick than that. But I would have to think it'll be a bit of a lower pick. And you're going to get back Letang. I don't think you're going to get back much more. Maybe you get an exchange of a pick, if you're doing 7th round. But I don't think you're going to get much more than Letang back in this deal. Now, who would be the prospect? I would have to think, I'm not including Romanov here. I think that'd be too much. And Caulfield, too. I don't think that you can include them here. But you're looking at Poehling, Ilonen, is it Jaden Struble? Or Jordan Harris? I think that's how it is. Jaden Struble, Jordan Harris. Or it's it's Jaden Struble. I think you're going to have to give back one of these guys, and with Petrie, that might not be one of the defensemen because you're giving Petrie already, so they're replacing the defenseman. But they may want one, and I would think more than likely it's going to be probably Ryan Poehling or Ilonen going back. So it's a big price to pay, but you're getting back Kris Letang, who's a really good defenseman, there's no doubt. My problem is he's injury prone, and you're paying him a lot of money. Next up is Oliver Ekman-Larsson, who is probably more likely than Letang to actually be on the trading block from Arizona. From what I can tell anyway, I think more than likely Larson is going to be on the trading block, where I don't think actually Letang will actually get there. Oliver Ekman-Larsson, 29 years old, 6'2", 200 pounds. It's from Sweden. He has been in the NHL for 10 seasons. He has 7 years left. 7 years left on an $8.25 million AAV contract. So like $8.25 million a season against the cap. And now that, I don't know if there's signing bonuses and stuff coming up, but that's just against the cap. Last season, 66 games, 9 goals, 21 assists, 30 points. So not bad, not as great as season. And as from what I read, I think it's his least productive season since 2012. That's what I think I read. His career, 723 games, 125 goals, 239 assists for 364 points. So overall, not as offensive. The production isn't the same as a Letang, but it's decent production. That's not bad production. So in 10 years, that averages out to half a point a game, 0.50 points per game, 12.5 goals per season, 23.9 assists per season for 36.4 points a season. So you're getting 36 points as opposed to 41. So it's a 5-point swing as far as offensive production between the two players on average. He is not injury prone. He plays an average of 72.3 games per season. So that's pretty good. You're getting a guy that you're pretty much assured, unless, injuries can happen, but he's not injury prone like Letang, who literally gets hurt every season except one in his career. Maybe two, like there was a strike-shortened season. I think he did play all 48. So out of his 13 seasons, 11 seasons he got hurt to some extent, missing a lot of games. I got that. He has a full no movement clause. This is one thing. He has to agree to be traded. So they can't just come out and say, well, we're moving Oliver Ekman-Larsson. He doesn't really know about it. And they move him because he has a full no movement clause. Whereas Letang, it's a modified one. He can pick 18 teams, give a list. It's different. So he definitely has to agree to come to Montreal. Personally, I'm thinking if this guy gets an opportunity to come to a different city and get away from Arizona with everything that's going on there, especially right now with the management and the coach and the GM and all that stuff, maybe not the coach, but the GM, he probably would want to, you would think, and to play for a storied franchise like Montreal. I would think he'd probably waive that to come to Montreal. That's my opinion. He is a left shot defenseman. That's what we're looking for. This guy can definitely play with Weber. There's no problem there. Problem with him is, yeah, he fits in the right side. You can keep Petrie, but now you've got that problem of three very high paid defensemen. He would be the highest paid defenseman, second on the team, only behind Carey Price overall. So it's a lot of money, and you're putting a lot of money in your top three defensemen. So that could be a problem, but he's left shot, so you know that he's going to be able to play with Weber. Would probably also need to move Petrie though, so maybe that changes what I'm saying to afford him, but creates a hole on the right side. So if you do that, you're creating a hole on the right side. So you go from, unless Ben Sherratt can play on the right side, you're creating a hole there. So I don't know if that benefits you to fill the hole on the left side with a guy like that that's so expensive for such a long amount of term that, you know, you just create a hole there, and you're no better off, really. Maybe slightly because you've got that guy that can play with Weber, but now you're looking for a guy to play behind Weber, so I don't know if that's better or not. He plays the power play. Not a huge producer, though, on the power play. He averages 14.7 power play points a season. That could have a lot to do with the team he's playing for, but then he comes here to Montreal, whose power play hasn't been great. I don't think he improves that, whereas Letang probably, I don't have his numbers for that, but I'm quite sure Letang's numbers are better than that. I'd be surprised if it's the same as his numbers overall. He plays the PK, obviously, so he's going to help you there. Now, the Coyotes need picks in the next two drafts. They got fined or they lost their, I think, second round pick this year and first round pick next year because of something to do with making, working out players before the combine, something like that. So they don't have a pick till the fourth round this season, and they don't have a pick till the third, or they only have one pick in the first three rounds next season, but don't have a first round. Or no, I believe they got it taken away, right? So they're looking to get a first round pick for next season, and maybe one for this season, but at least a pick in the first three rounds, at least, right? So they're looking for picks in this draft. To me, it's obvious. In a trade like this, he's become more of a defensive first, a defense first. That's what I wrote there. He's become apparently more of a defense first type of defenseman, which might explain some of his lower numbers. And he would fit in well in a first pairing with Weber, letting Weber do a little bit more on the offensive side, and still being a bit of a puck mover, and he can contribute to the offense. It's not what I'm not saying he's not that, but you know, defense first might help a little bit there. Length of term and the average annual value of that contract could be hard to fit into. I wrote long, but it's supposed to be long range plans. I don't know if you guys can read that anyway, but I'm going to change it because I'm a bit OCD about that. So, yeah, that contract size and the term could be really hard to fit in into the Habs in the long range, because they've got a lot of guys to sign after next season. This is a lot of money, and it's a lot of term. You can't kind of back away from it unless you trade him. You can't back out of it or know that within 2 seasons, like Letang, who's only got 2 seasons, that you know you're not going to be having that contract to worry about. Draft picks and prospects will definitely need to be a big part of any deal. So this is not where you're giving up. You don't have to trade Petrie here. You maybe that's what they want to do, but I doubt that they're going to want to take another high-priced defenseman back. Although I don't believe that it's a cap issue with them in trading Ekman-Larsson. I don't think that's what it is. It's more of an issue that they need some picks, and this is the best guy that they have probably to do that. Even though he's their captain, I still think, and people do think. I mean, I'm reading articles about it. People do think that. That he's probably the best guy that they can move to get these prospects and picks into the organization. Apparently, they've been an organization where they don't believe in developing players that well, so they don't have a lot of that going on, and they like to go rely on getting veterans to fill in the roles that they need, and maybe this is a way for them to start changing that. So what would it take to get Oliver Ekman-Larsson? I mean, I don't know exactly, but I think it would be something like this to get him. Now, I wrote here Petrie, but I put a question mark because I don't think that they want another big contract defenseman back. But it's possible, so maybe it would have to be Petrie. But again, that would open up a problem on the right side, right? But I think it would be more like a Mete or Kulak because from what I'm reading, they're not looking for this trade to be something that will improve them coming up this season, but more in the long term, and that's why the prospects and the picks. So I think it's a young player like Mete or Kulak, a Ryan Poehling. I put here Matthias Norlinder, who I really like, and I hope they don't get rid of. But I mean, he's far enough away that you got to think that he's eligible to be traded. So a Norlinder, or maybe it's a Struble, or a Harris. A first-round pick next year. They're going to want Montreal's first-round pick next year. But look, if you get a guy like this, more than likely your team is better. You do better getting into the playoffs. Maybe you win the first round. If you do, your pick that you're giving them isn't going to be a great one. It's going to be in the 20s somewhere. And that's not the greatest pick to have. So losing that isn't the end of the world. And maybe you can go out and make a deal and pick up another first-round pick anyway. And I think a second-round pick this year. So Montreal has, I think, 3 second-round picks. They can afford to do that in a deal like this to give them a second-rounder, which I think they would want. I don't think Montreal is going to give up their first-round pick this year for this kind of a deal. But I think a second-rounder, without a doubt, because like I said, they got 3. So I think that's what it's going to take, something like that. It's going to be a big list from Montreal's side. And basically you're getting back Ekman-Larsson, and maybe you can talk them into a second or third round pick, but in 2022, when they're out of their problems with their picks. So I could see maybe you get a little extra back that way. So I think it's going to be something like that. I don't know. So now it's time to decide for me who I think, what I think we should do or could do, or what my opinion is of these guys. So we'll start out with Kris Letang. I don't want to turn my back. Kris Letang. For me, he's injury prone. It's a bit, it's great. Like, say you get him for 60 games, right? It's great to have him for those 60 games. I'm sure he's going to do a lot. But you've got 22 games where you don't have him. And if you've lost Petrie in that deal, then you don't have him. Like, what is the defense going to look like? That's 22 important games. So to me, that's a big, big risk. He's making a lot of money. I like the term of only 2 years, but he's making a lot of money. You have to give up Petrie probably to get him. And his health is going to be an issue. Not maybe. It's like maybe he'll play a full season, but he's going to get injured is like a thing, right? So for me, Letang's a no because of that. I think it's too big of a risk. I like the guy. I like the player. I like the fact that he's from Montreal. I just don't like those things. So I'm a no on Letang. For Ekman-Larsson, it's not I'm a yes on Ekman-Larsson because there's things there too. It's a lot of term, it's a lot of money, and you're gonna have to move somebody to get him. You can't really afford that. You can't afford Petrie, Weber, and Ekman-Larsson. I just don't see it. Not with the flat cap that we're gonna have for the next few seasons. I just don't see it. So do I want to get Ekman-Larsson? If I'm voting, would I like to get him despite anything else? Just would I think he'd be good here and all that? I'd say yes. But because of those things, I think it's giving up a little too much. Unless they can solve something of having Arizona pick up some of his salary. I don't know. But I guess if you're moving Petrie, which I don't think you are, you could probably afford it. So I'm kind of... I want to say yes to Ekman-Larsson, but I don't like his contract. But I think just to him, I'm going to say yes. And they'll find a way to work it out. He would be the kind of guy you want playing with like Weber, the guy that we're looking for to play with Weber for how many seasons. I think Ekman-Larsson handles that. So I'm going to say a tentative yes. It's a tentative yes. So don't beat me up on the yes. It's tentative. So there you go. Long video again. I can't seem to do anything but long videos. Let me know what you guys think. Would you say yes or no? Would you say yes or no? Either one in the comment section. I'd appreciate that. while you're down there, please give a thumbs up if you like the video. Yeah, I know it's a long video. Give a thumbs up. And if you're new to the channel or you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe and ring that notifications bell. That's all the stuff. It's all down there. And you can do it all in one quick, doesn't take long. And that'll get you your daily fix of Blue, Blanc, Rouge right here at Talkin' Habs. Thanks, everybody, for watching. I really appreciate it. Please stay safe out there. Peace out, y'all. I'll see you next video. Bye, everybody.